Right, good morning everybody and welcome to the Western and Southern Area Planning Committee, today Thursday the 25th of July 2024. For the benefit of the public, I'm Councillor Dave Bolwell, Chair of this committee, and my Vice Chair is Councillor Neil Lysenk. The meeting is being streamed live and the recording will also be available to view on the website after the meeting. By attending this meeting, you consent to being filmed. Can I remind everyone that when you are speaking, please speak directly into the microphones so that you can be clearly heard and visible to the camera system. The Planning Committee is not a public meeting, but a meeting to which the public is invited. All attendees must comply with a ruling of the Chair. They must not interrupt the meeting or cause undue disturbance. To support this, please switch off your mobile phones or select silent mode for the duration of the meeting, and those using Teams, please ensure microphones are on mute and your device volume is set to 0 to maintain audio quality. Only those who have registered to speak in accordance with the speaking protocol will be invited to address the committee for a maximum of 3 minutes. No material is to be circulated to members of the committee. We have 2 applications to determine today. The case officer will be invited to present the report and recommendations. As both applications are on the same subject, the presentation will cover both applications. However, we will be debating and voting on the applications separately. Next, I will invite members of the public who have registered to speak to address the committee. Each speaker will have 3 minutes, and today we have 2 speakers. Both wish to speak on each of the 2 items, following which the committee members will be given the opportunity to ask questions of the planning officer before moving on to the debate. I will now conduct a roll call of members. Councillor Belinda Borden, Councillor Louise Bone, Councillor Simon Christopher. Good morning, Simon. Councillor Paul Kimber. Good morning, Paul. Councillor Craig Monks. Good morning, Craig. Councillor David Northam. Councillor Louis O'Leary. Thank you. Councillor Pete Roper. Good morning, Pete. Councillor David Shortell. Good morning, David. And Councillor Kate Weller. Good morning, Kate. Now I would like to introduce the officers involved in today's meeting. We have Anne Collins, Development Manager, Area Manager. Good morning, Anne. We have Phil Crowther, Legal Business Partner, Regulatory. Morning, Phil. Morning, Chair. We have Katrina Trevitt, Development Manager, Team Leader. Good morning, Katrina. We have Megan Rochester, Democratic Services Officer. Good morning, Megan. And finally, we have Josh Kennedy, Democratic Services Officer. Good morning, Josh. Moving on to the agenda. Agenda item 1, apologies. Josh, are there any apologies?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So we've got apologies today from Councillors O'Leary and Northam.
Thank you, Josh. Noted. Agenda item 2, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest from members, please? There don't appear to be any. Agenda item 3, to agree and sign the minutes of the meeting held on the 20th of June 2024. Are there any comments or corrections? If not, then I will sign them as a true record of the meeting. That seems to be fine. Thank you very much. Move on to agenda item 4, public participation. Members of the public registered to speak can be given the opportunity to speak now if they wish, or to wait for their item to be presented. Do either of our 2 speakers wish to speak now, or do you wish to wait until after the officer presentation?
We're going to speak after the officer presentation, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. In that case, we'll move to agenda item 5A, planning application P/LBC/2024/02588, which is 8 Custom House Quay, Weymouth, DT4 8BE. Now, this will be introduced by Katrina Trevitt, and please can I remind you that there will only be one presentation that covers agenda items 5A and 5B. Katrina, please.
Thank you, Chairman. So this application or this presentation contains details applied for listed building consent and advertisement consent at 8 Custom House Quay, Weymouth, which involve the external works for a painted mural on the building's east elevation to commemorate the RLI's 200th anniversary. There we go, sorry. Apologies for that. Here is the site location. The former Custom House, 8 Custom House Quay, is situated on the north side of Weymouth Harbour, indicated and outlined in red. And this application seeks to paint a mural on the east elevation gable end wall of that Grade 2 listed building. Here you can see the site, again edged in red in the site plan, and you can see the laser pointer hovering over the end wall where the mural is to be painted. Here is a street view image of that Custom House of the Grade 2 listed building, which, as you can see, is incredibly attractive. It's maintained the majority of its original features. It still looks as a whole in its original form. It's obviously a key listed building that is part of the inherent character of that area of Weymouth Harbour within the Weymouth Town Centre Conservation Area, and is incredibly pleasing and visually attractive within that streetscape. It's also neighboured by a number of designated and non-designated heritage assets, of which this mural will be within the setting of those. One of those being the De Heers building here, which is also Grade 2 listed, and you've got the non-designated heritage assets next door and behind. This is an image of that existing gable wall, obviously without the mural in place, but again, just reflecting on the fact that it's retained many of its original features and is very pleasing. And now going through to the proposed elevation, you can see from that existing elevation, proposed elevation, you can see the extent of the mural that is to be attached to this gable end wall. Now, what I wanted to make clear is that this, Dorset Council are incredibly supportive of the RLI. They are a really important sea safety service, particularly where we have a lot of coastal areas. And this scheme, whilst in principle supports advertisement consents and murals as a way of public art, and we're very much supportive of that, we feel that this image in its current state is just too overbearing and overwhelming on that side gable elevation of the lovely Grade 2 listed building. And therefore, what we would seek is a slight reduction in the intensity of colour, which kind of really comes through on this image and the next image, the slight modification of the size of the boat, and really bringing that mural down so it only covers a third of that gable end wall rather than the kind of overbearing half, which really then takes away that visual prominence of the frontage elevation of the Grade 2 listed building, which the key character really comes from in terms of its former Custom House character and attractiveness to Weymouth Harbour. We would also prefer to see that window, which are obviously listed features, and the window below are removed from the mural. So taken out. So we would prefer a reduction. However, we're not saying that we wouldn't support a mural here, and obviously would wish to support the RLI and the Ernest and Mabel lifeboat, which is projected on there, which can be seen in the harbour opposite, along with the RLI station. But we're just saying that it's overly intense in terms of what's being applied in its current form. This is then shown again through this kind of CGI image that has been submitted with the application. So you can see the extent that the mural spreads over that end gable wall, which we would prefer to see slightly reduced. Weymouth does have a history of mural paintings. We all acknowledge that. We've obviously had the very recent mural trail that's been dotted in and around Weymouth for visitors and tourists. It's acknowledged that the Arna lifeboat would obviously enhance that kind of feature in terms of Weymouth tourism. And here is probably the image which probably most relates, I think, to what's proposed on our site. However, you can see how even though the tall ship is large on that gable end, this isn't a listed building, this is a locally important building, but also it's been done more subtly in that the ship is only outlined in a slightly darker colour than the original building colour, but it's still impactful, it's still noticeable. So therefore, the key constraints which cover this site, it is within the defined development boundary, obviously within the town centre conservation area and the Grade 2 listed building that I've already mentioned. The principle's acceptable. We consider that the visual impact and impact to the historic building and setting of other designated and non-designated heritage assets in the conservation area is not acceptable. In its current form, it's overpowering and overly dominant and reduces the historic and traditional nature, character and appearance of the listed building and setting within the Weymouth Town Centre conservation area and other designated and non-designated heritage assets. Residential amenity impact on neighbours acceptable, highway safety acceptable. It's just that visual amenity concern. And then in terms of the listed building, we consider also not acceptable. It's overpowering and overly dominant, reducing the prominence and loveliness of that building. And we would prefer to see something that's slightly less overpowering, slightly less dominant, but kind of keeping, some of the features that are wished to be incorporated, but done in a better way. And therefore, we consider that it results in less than substantial harm, not outweighed by public benefit. So therefore, we're recommending refusal on both the advertisement consent and the listed building consent for the reasons stated within the committee report. I just want to also mention about the paint, because there was a query about the application of the Dulux Weather Shield paint. There's already an impervious paint applied to that gable end wall of the Grade 2 listed building. The conservation team did consider that and therefore felt it wasn't necessary to request a breathable paint is used for the mural painting. And they also felt that the lime wash or breathable mineral would not interact well upon that present impervious paint. So that's the reason for the suggested paint type that's been put forward already. And there we go. Thank you, Chairman.
Yes, Katrina, thank you. Could, for the benefit of the members, could you just re-clarify the difference between the two applications we have here? Thank you.
Absolutely. So the listed building consent is dealing with the application of the paint to that gable end wall. So essentially it's the works to the listed building, whereas the advertisement consent is the impact from the mural actually painted onto the wall and the impact in terms of amenity and public safety.
Thank you, Katrina. Just for my clarification, so that means it is feasible that one could be accepted and one could be refused. They're not mutually exclusive, yeah? Thank you.
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you for that clarification. I now move to our public speakers. You both have 3 minutes each on this one. I think we'll call Chris Mill first, please.
So good morning, members. My name is Chris Mill, and I'm an Associate Director at Pure Town Planning, and we are the agents representing the RNLI. I'm here speaking in support of the proposal. I'm an RTPI Chartered Town Planner with over 10 years of experience, which includes a 2-year period as a planning inspector. But perhaps more importantly, I'm also a Weymouth resident, and I have the utmost respect and admiration for the vital work undertaken by the RNLI volunteers. The applications before you have been recommended for refusal by your officers, and I wish to outline the main reasons why I feel that members should overturn this recommendation and to proceed to grant consent for the mural. Policies Way 1 and Way 4 of the local plan seek to enhance the rich and distinct local character of Weymouth Harbour and improve the public realm for residents and visitors alike. 8 Custom House Quay is located opposite the RNLI lifeboat station, and the building has a long-standing association with Weymouth's maritime activities. It was originally constructed as a merchant's house, but over the past 200 years, it's also been occupied by His Majesty's Customs and His Majesty's Coast Guard. It's now most recently a cafe. These maritime uses contribute to the local interest and significance of the listed building and the conservation area. The RNLI themselves have been stationed in Weymouth since 1869, and they are ingrained with the harbour's character and its rich past. The proposed mural would commemorate the RNLI's 200th anniversary, and the boat shown on the mural would be the Ernest and Mabel lifeboat, which is moored on the opposite side of the harbour. The mural would face eastwards, which is intentional. It faces towards the harbour entrance, and it's intended to welcome home RNLI volunteers when they return back to the lifeboat station. The RNLI are a charity who are funded by donations, and the mural would promote awareness of the RNLI, which they hope will generate further donations and interest from residents and visitors in volunteering opportunities. The RNLI have considered a smaller mural at the site, but they feel that it would fail to raise as much public interest when compared to the current proposal. In my professional opinion, the mural would enhance the significance of the listed building and the conservation area, and it would better reveal the RNLI's history and long-standing relationship with the town. It would also be in keeping with the character and appearance of the conservation area, where large murals are common along the harbour side. The proposal has significant public support and the full support of Weymouth Town Council and the ward member, Councillor Orrell, who is also Mayor of Weymouth. The application has also been assessed by the Council's conservation officer, who has no objection to the mural. In her word, the mural would provide a design that commemorates the RNLI, the historic connection with the harbour activities, and the RNLI adds to the cultural significance of this building, and therefore the proposal would enhance this significance further, highlighting the local connection. So, councillors, I implore you today to use your decision-making powers to overturn the officer recommendation, which is at odds with public opinion, and grant consent for this fantastic mural, which I feel will be a great benefit to the town and the RNLI. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you, Chris, and you were spot on time there. And I'll call Barry Stoneham, please. Barry, you have 3 minutes as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Barry Stoneham, the fundraising treasurer for Weymouth RNLI. Tim Aberley, the chair of our lifeboat management group, wanted to address you today, but he is unfortunately away on a pre-arranged trip to Spain. I would like to focus on support for these applications and point out the enormous majority, 83% of supporting comments on the applications. For the LBC application, 34 in support and 2 objections, and for the ADV application, 5 in support and 5 objections, plus 1 conditional response later withdrawn. These statistics appear to make something of a mockery of the planning officer's assertion that there was, and I quote, equal measure of objections to support letters. And I can only conclude she was referring only to the ADV application, where there were 5 and 5, and ignoring the comments on the LBC bid, where there are 34 and 2. There are some comments on the perceived garishness of the mural, but I would point out that the colours used are actual colours from the RNLI palette. The lifeboat is, of course, predominantly orange, for very good and obvious reasons. In addition to the written comments, we have received overwhelmingly enthusiastic support for the mural from very large numbers of members of the public, both residents and visitors, at well-attended local events where we have exhibited recently, and at which we have displayed a large A1 storyboard showing the artist's impression of the mural and the reason it's been proposed. These events have included Fair in the Square, Summerfest, Chickerell Steam Fair, lifeboat collection days at major supermarkets, and choral and other musical concerts. The unanimously supportive comments we have received have included several offers from individuals to contribute in full or in part to the costs of the mural. The whole tenor of comments made, both written and verbal, is one of enormous appreciation for the RNLI as an organisation and for the work that Weymouth lifeboat crews and lifeguards carry out and the benefits that their exposure bring to the town, with many comments highlighting the potential tourism draw of the mural. Those in support fully appreciate the tribute to the RNLI in its 200th anniversary year and the tribute to Weymouth's own lifeboat station in its 155th year, with the mural depicting our own all-weather lifeboat, one of the busiest on the south coast. Amongst the written comments on the applications is one from the Conservation and Design Officer, who considers the tone and content of the mural to be entirely in keeping with the ongoing regeneration of the harbour area, with the only slight caveat being it might be appropriate to include an interpretive information plaque at lower level, which we would fully support. The Town Council also support the application. In view of this overwhelming support, both written and verbal, for the project and the very small number of objections, I would ask the committee to look favourably on the applications. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Barry. That was spot on as well. So well done to both of you. Thank you. Now, our members have the opportunity to ask the planning officer any questions, but at this stage, can you keep strictly to questions of a technical nature only, please? Are there any? Councillor Kimber.
If we went along with the recommendation from the planning officer, I just wondered, does that still mean that if the RNI came along later with a revised planning application, or would we be given clearance to the other side, or the recommendation that it's smaller?
I could answer that one, but I think I'll pass it over to Katrina, please.
Thank you, Councillor Kimber. So we were working towards a solution with the agent and artist through the course of this application. However, it was for the RLI to have final say in terms of that. And there is a draft prediction, well, a draft plan basically, which we came to, which we felt was a really good negotiation and meeting point in terms of what we would prefer to see on the gable wall of the Custom House. But yes, I mean, obviously, dependent on the members' vote today, if it moved to officer recommendation, then there is scope, obviously, to negotiate with the RLI on that image where we felt actually we'd come to a suitable middle ground. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Katrina. So I think you're saying that you have to refuse this one if that's what they want to do, and then come back with a new application with a revised mural.
Yes, that's correct, Chairman. Thank you. Sorry. Thanks.
That's okay, Katrina. Councillor Monks, please.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Craig Monks, Bedminster Ward. My question of technical nature is linked to the permanency of the mural. So I know from experience of council work and my professional work that when we work on listed buildings, if something's a temporary measure, in my world, solar panels, that's something to take into consideration. So if this mural, if this painting, mural, I can't say mural, especially on YouTube, so forgive me. If we had an element of a temporary fix rather than the assumption that it will be a permanent mural forever, would that influence the decision-making process? Because if this is for the 200th anniversary, it could be that it's removed and restored in 12 months' time.
That will be for the members to consider in terms of that. However, we do consider that even, the image that has been put forward is overpowering and overbearing in our consideration.
Thank you, Katrina. I believe Councillor Weller had her hand up, please.
It's not of a technical nature. It was when those questions are finished. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Bone?
Thank you. I wanted to ask, if we approve the mural, would there be would the owners of the property have an obligation to keep it painted and not? I mean, if in 10 years, 20 years time, when it becomes into disrepair, would there be an onus on them to keep it up to looking nice?
members would have to consider if there was the necessity to agree details of a maintenance schedule in terms of the mural and its upkeep and maintenance in the future.
Sorry, can I come back? So does that mean we can amend the so we could pass the application with the caveat that it needs to be kept up to speed, up to, you know?
Essentially, if members voted to approve the application and go against officer recommendation, then yes.
Thank you. Councillor Bone, are you happy with the response? Thank you. Are there any more questions of a technical nature, please? In that case, I'll open the debate to members. Who would like to? I think Councillor Weller was first. I'll pass over to Councillor Weller. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I would like to propose that we accept the principle of an advertisement on the side of the building and that we accept the design that is requested. It is large and it is impactful, but that is the whole point of it. As soon as we begin to bring it down or mute the colours, we alter the whole impact of of what's trying to be achieved. I don't believe, personally, that the size and the density of the image detracts from the listed building. It's not proposed that it will be on the front, which is historic and classic. You're not detracting from that at all, in my view. So the mural doesn't damage the structure of the building. By the very nature of it, it's paint. And paint fades, and in that location it will fade because it's in full sunlight. So I don't see any reason not to accept this this application. I do think that we need conditions on the maintenance of its appearance, because if the paint starts to peel and so on, then it would look dreadful, and that would most certainly detract from the building at that point. But that would be the same for the white paint. We would be asking the conservation officer to look at the owner of the building to maintain the building in a fit state. But conditions should be put on there, and I would support that we encourage them to put an interpretation board to explain exactly what this is all about. And I think the RNLI have said that they would be happy to do that. So I'd like to propose, and I hope that somebody would like to second me, that we overturn the officer's recommendation, I'm sorry, Katrina, and that we do approve the application.
It's okay. Thank you. Could you use the microphone, Councillor Kimber, because the people at home coming in.
I'll second that. Are you happy for me to speak now? Yeah. The fact we've got a mural covering a whole wall further down on the quay, we had no objection there. I think we're sort of using two different principles in two different areas. I have to say I've spent a lot of years of my life at sea. Probably I just worked it out, 35 years at sea in one way or another, in the Navy and there. And I think with the 200th anniversary coming up, I think this can only enhance the whole area. If councillors haven't taken a walk down that area, I would urge them to do, because we've set a fantastic area, and it actually suits the area. It's not as though we're just painting a mural on a wall. The whole area is a superb facility, and I think we as a council, our predecessors that did this, have to be congratulated on what they're doing, and that's why I'm happy to go against the recommendation. Thank you. Lastly, the town council also have no problem, and I take that seriously as well. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Kimber. We have a proposer and a seconder. Before we go too deeply into that, are there any more members wishing to contribute to the debate? In that case, as you're going against the officer's refusal, we're going to need some reasons why the committee feel that the officer's refusal is not acceptable to you. So thank you. Councillor Bone.
So reasons to overturn the officer's recommendation. I think a huge argument, as the RNI and the artist have proposed it, is that the Weymouth Town Council are in favour, the Mayor is in favour. It's on the side of the building, as Kate Weller has pointed out. It's not on the frontage. And obviously, as a proud Weymouthian, I'm really proud of the RNI heritage in the town, and I think it's really nice to celebrate that. It's entirely in keeping with the harbour side.
Thank you for that. I'm entitled to an opinion as well in this one. I think my concern is that we may be losing sight of the fact that the other mural is not on a listed building, and it's not covering up detail on a grade 2 listed. My personal concern was the windows disappear into the lifeboat. So that was one concern that I did have. Nobody's actually brought that up. So maybe you need to consider that as well. Thank you. Councillor Weller.
On the subject of the windows, I know that conservation officers are often very concerned about windows being painted over, and I know we had a similar problem at the top of St Thomas Street a few years ago, where the conservation officer did object. The conservation officer in this case doesn't seem to be too concerned, because the window is not a classic bow window or anything of that sort. It's a standard flat window, so it's of a different impact, really. I think, despite the fact that the ship is not a listed building, it is a designated building. So whilst the precedent of working on a listed building is maybe not quite there, again, the conservation officer had no problem at all with the building in St Thomas Street being painted on in quite an impactful way. So the principle is possibly there already. The other thing is, with listed buildings, we do have to take great care of our listed buildings, and think very carefully before we change structure on them. But there are other buildings along Custom House Quay where the structures have been changed, albeit through negotiation and with some difficulty, but they have been changed. So I think that I would hope that our officers can put together a reason why, on balance, because it is an on-balance thing, isn't it? It's the, I can't remember the phrase you used, Katrina, but it will come back to me, but it'll be on the tip of your tongue. That phrase that you use, the impact, I think on balance, in my view, the impact is not so great that we should refuse it. Obviously, in the officer's view, the impact is so great that you should. That's really very subjective, isn't it?
I just would like some comments, please, from Phil Crowther, our legal representative. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So just a few comments to help guide members in reaching your decision. You need to apply the tests which are set out in the report for these two applications, so for advertisement consent and for the listed building consent. This isn't about support. The tests that you have to apply are not about whether you support the RNLI or not, or whether their work is good. This is about the impact on the listed building. I think it's helpful to remember the tests in the National Planning Policy Framework, which set out in fairly, I would say as a lawyer, fairly straightforward ways of how to go about that. So you have to decide whether the the proposal would cause harm or not to the listed building. If it causes no harm to the listed building, then that's effectively that's your decision over. If you think if you think it causes harm, you have to determine whether that's substantial harm or less than substantial harm, and if the public benefits, if it's less than substantial harm, you can consider whether the public benefits outweigh that, that may be the public benefits for the service the RNLI provides, putting a nuance on what I said earlier, might be what counters that. So your first question on how you approach it is, does the building cause harm or not? I think Councillor Weller said she didn't think the size and density detracted from the listed building. So I would take that, I suggest that you take that as your starting point for how you approach the tests. And just to say as well that it's not for officers to find the reasons to support a proposal. It's for members to put those officers. We're not saying you have to put them in technical terms or you have to quote policy references, but you do have to give proper reasons for applying the test, and then we will help you put that into more formal wording. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Phil. So I think that hopefully that was clear enough. I think it's down to less than substantial harm or whether the public benefits are. So I'll pass you over to Councillor Weller,
Exactly that, Chairman. I don't believe that this mural on this location causes substantial harm to the listed property.
Anybody else like to speak? I think this, I'll come to you in a second, Anne. Phil Crowther, please.
Thank you. So, Chair, so Councillor Weller said that, I think if I've understood correctly, that there is some harm, but it's less than substantial. So that you then need to go on and say, what are the public benefits which outweigh that less than substantial harm? And that should come from Councillor Weller as the proposer, and then Councillor Kimber would have to agree that that's the basis for seconding the resolution. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Weller, would you just like to clarify that last bit, please?
Yes, I will rely upon officers, if I may, to put this into the correct wording. I'll do my best. I believe this causes less than substantial harm. It is not of structural impact. No walls are being removed, no windows are being removed, no windows are being put into it. So there's no structure. It is effectively it's a cosmetic change to the building, and as such, it can be reinstated at any time, and that supports my opinion that it is less than substantial harm.
Thank you. Just bear with me. Sorry, Anne, I'll come to you in a second.
Thank you, Chair. I think that's subject to anything that Mrs. Collins might think. I think that's clear on your reasons for why you think it's less than substantial. You then need to go on and say what public benefits you think there are which outweigh. So if you think of it, so you've identified harm to a listed building is effectively harm to a public asset. So you need to then go out to set out what you think the public benefits to outweigh that public harm are. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chairman. That's rather harder because the Chairman has pointed out, and I think Mr. Crowther also pointed out, that we should not, emotion shouldn't come into this. And of course, an organisation like the RNLI is exactly that. People have an affection for it, and therefore they feel a connection with the whole thing, and they will feel a great connection with this application, and their letters have demonstrated that they are in support of this application and of this work being carried out. In terms of the benefit, I guess commemorating the fact that this voluntary organisation has been in existence for 200 years is nationally quite an important thing to do. If it's possible to raise the profile of the RNLI any further than it is already, it will certainly do that, and that will enhance the RNLI's ability to raise funds and so on, which they always need to do. They can't operate without public funding. Without going into emotions of things, I don't see how I can say more than that, I'm afraid. But I'm sure somebody else will think of someone.
Yes, thanks, Councillor Weller. Before I take any more members' questions or comments, Anne Collins, please. Oh, you're shaking your head now. Phil has said it. Okay, that's lovely. Thank you. So we now have Councillor Bone, followed by Councillor Shortell, and followed by Councillor Kimber. After that, I'm going to have to move to a vote if that's where we're heading. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I wonder if Councillor Weller would agree with me that it's relevant that the picture is on the side of the building and it does not harm the frontage, so that you would still be able to take a photograph or enjoy the frontage of all those buildings without the mural detracting.
Thank you. Councillor Shortell.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I'm wondering if it's possible to actually have a look at the actual finished work as you portrayed on the screen earlier, please. I just wanted to make my mind up as to whether it's over. Prominent or not. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, David. Councillor Kimber, and I think Councillor Monks as well also. After that, I need to talk to our officers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. In this case, if we can we go back to the mural again, please, and also if you can give us a look at the previous slide with the mural on the front of the building. A bit further down, yeah. What I was going to say is, I believe that there is a styles change, and sometimes we wish everything could be held as it was, but it's not. I'm thinking there's a tattoo parlour in Weymouth that's also got a mural in there. So things are beginning to change in this style of putting murals on buildings. I remember when I was in the forces seeing it in Ireland when I was stationed there. Yeah, and I really still of the opinion that there is other buildings with murals on. Now, if it was a first time, then we'd have to have a really deep look. But there is a precedent. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kimber, and Councillor Monks, please.
Thank you, Chair. I might try and help Councillor Weller with some wording for that second part. So, looking at the report, perhaps Council can consider that we, as a second element, can add that the Council considers that the memorial preserves and enhances the character and appearance of the conservation area, and as a result, in less than substantial harm, you have to help me with this, is then outweighed to the obvious public benefit to the local area, which then will comply with the relevant relevant sections.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Monks. I think officers may need some time on this if it's feasible to put something together based on the information we have to date. Just bear with me a second. A response to you, Councillor Monks.
Thank you, Chair. Just in response to Councillor Monk's suggestion, I think officers have sufficient from Councillor Weller to work that up into a more formal word. My concern with what Councillor Monk's put forward is there's a tension between saying that it preserves and enhances, and then part of Councillor Weller's proposal was accepting that there was an element of harm, albeit less than substantial. So I don't think you can say preserves and enhance if you accept that there is some harm. But I think officers have enough from what Councillor Weller said earlier to understand the rationale that there is, in Councillor Weller's view, making the proposal, that there is less than substantial harm, but that there are public benefits that outweigh that, connected with raising the profile of the RNLI. I know I've put that fairly crudely, but I think that was the substance of it. So just so that members aren't under any misapprehension about the reason for that proposal. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, thank you. Anne Collins, are you happy to take some time you've got something to work with? 5 minutes, you sure? In that case, we'll adjourn the meeting for 5 minutes. Thank you. The time is now 10:47. Yeah, so we've 10:55. Welcome back, everybody. Nobody's actually left the chamber apart from the officers, so I won't bother with a full roll call. Councillor Collins, I'm sorry, Anne, I shouldn't, should I? Anne Collins, please.
Thank you, Chair. So in terms of members' reasoning for recommending approval for the listed building application, hearing what Councillor Weller said, the mural would result in less than substantial harm, which will be outweighed by the public benefit of promoting a national life-saving charity. And in terms of the advertisement consent, the mural would result in less than substantial harm, which will be outweighed by the public benefit of promoting a national life-saving charity and will not adversely impact on public amenity and highway safety, because the considerations are slightly different for the advertisement consent. So in terms of the members' recommendation, delegate authority to the head of planning and service manager for development management and enforcement to approve subject to planning conditions, which we'll set out in a minute, and also subject to any minor changes to that condition wording that officers feel appropriate once we review after the meeting, bearing in mind we've only had a few minutes, Chair. If Katrina's okay to show those conditions to you now and just run through those, please.
Yes, thank you. And so, okay, with the listed building consent, we're looking at the standard time limit condition, approval of the plans list. We're also seeking a maintenance schedule prior to works commencing. A maintenance scheme schedule of the mural hereby granted shall be submitted to and approved in writing by the local planning authority, and that will include monitoring timescales. This does need to be tweaked just to say that the development will proceed in accordance with that maintenance schedule thereafter. We'd also look to secure the paint colours in terms of prior to commencement of painting the mural, the colour paint charts and the type of paint shall be submitted to and approved in writing to the local planning authority. And again, thereafter, the development should proceed as agreed and maintained. We'd also seek to condition the information plaque. So prior to the fixing or erection of the information plaque, we would seek to secure details of its location, scale, materials and colour, and then ensure going forward that the information plaque is then fixed and as approved. In terms of the advertisement consent, we would seek to agree the plans list condition. There are 5 standard advertisement consent conditions that need to be attached to any form of advertisement consent. They relate to permission of the owner, position, maintain visual amenity, maintain from endangerment, and in terms of what happens when the advert is removed. We would also then seek to attach the maintenance schedule, which I've already mentioned. Again, agree paint colours and the type of paint to be used, and the agreement of the information plaque. Thank you, Chairman.
Yes, Katrina, thank you. I thought we were actually going to take these two separately. So the conditions are interesting for the vote we haven't had yet, or the discussion we haven't had yet. But it's nice to be preemptive sometimes. Right, at the moment, then we have a. I'm sorry, Councillor Shortall, I did miss you.
That's quite all right. It's easily done, Chairman. I was under the understanding that one of the conditions would be related to the windows or the window surrounds, not to be included in the mural painting as well, so that they could be more prominently seen. Am I wrong in thinking that?
Yeah, you're
wrong. Yes, I think you may be mistaken there, Councillor Shortall. The windows themselves, I am aware, will not actually physically be painted. They would just be left their normal colour. So is that what you were referring to?
I was thinking more in the terms of the surrounds of the windows, so the windows could still be seen prominently as windows rather than blend into the mural itself.
I'm sorry, we haven't touched on that point at all in the debate, and I'm not sure whether it's a bit late in the day to bring it in. I'll pass you over to Katrina in a minute.
I was just going to confirm that the mural does include painting of the windows. The windows are, or the top window is encapsulated within the mural. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. At the moment, then, we still have a proposer and a seconder. I need to turn to them to check they're happy with the conditions. So, Councillor Weller as proposer. That is for the listed building only at this stage.
If we're taking them separately, yes, I propose that for the listed building.
Thank you. And Councillor Kimber as seconder. Are you happy with the conditions? In that case, could I please take a vote? All those in favour of approving this application, which is contrary to the officer's recommendation, and if you're happy with the conditions, please raise your hands. Yeah. Thank you. We have 5 for. Anybody against? And that's 3 against. In that case, sorry, abstentions. We don't usually have abstentions. We do have an abstention. Thank you very much, Councillor Christopher. 5, 3 and 1, Josh. In that case, the application is approved. We now move on to the second application, which is for advertising consent. I believe there still possibly is going to be a speaker before we go into debate. We obviously have already had the presentation. Chris?
I was just going to pick up on something that Anna and Katrina have spoken about already with regards to maintenance. There are standard advertisement conditions requiring maintenance of the advert, so that a bespoke maintenance condition isn't required for the advertisement consent. That was all.
Okay, thank you. Members, the debate now, do you have any technical questions on the advertisement application? Thank you. Do you wish to debate this, or is there a proposer or a seconder? Councillor Weller has proposed, and I'm not sure what yet.
Propose acceptance of the advertising, the new recommendation to accept the advertising. Propose this part is 5B, isn't it? I can't see my screen now. Is it 5B or 5A? With 5B, yeah.
Yeah, it's actually against the officer's recommendation again, and it is 5B. You are correct.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to try and make it clear to see if I can help Councillor Weller. Is your proposal to approve the advertisement consent for the reasons that were set out a minute ago by officers and with the conditions that were suggested? Thank you, Chair.
Yes, thank you. It's getting quite complex for a rather simple application, isn't it? Councillor Kimber, you're happy to second that and under the same? Does anybody wish to debate this? In that case, I'll move straight to the vote. All those in favour, raise your hands. That's 6. All those against? And any abstentions? 2. 3 abstentions. Thank you very much. In that case, the application is also approved. We got there. Right, moving on to item 6, urgent items, and there are no urgent items. Moving on to item 7, exempt business. There is no exempt business. In that case, thank you all for attending today, and the meeting is now closed at 11:08. Thank you very much.